Coming up on Sister to Sister, what would you tell your 13-year-old self? And also, how do you get your teenager to talk, which we don't have a problem with? And what about the sisters and their first date? Stay tuned, it's going to be interesting.
Hello and welcome to Sister. If you have never tuned in before, you're joining 5 opinionated, strong Christian women, and we're going to save the world. You just watch. Right? Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
What we do is we have these terrific questions, and some of them you send in, thanks a lot, but this one is very interesting. A while ago, we talked to you about the realistic Barbie. Remember her? But now there's a realistic Barbie that has a period, has a menstrual cycle period, and comes complete with little pads that you, the audience is going, what? What do you think? What do you think?
I've seen it as an educational piece. Like, you know, they have the dolls that you would take home for health class to teach the children about the responsibility and accountability if they had a child as a teenager. And so I kind of see this in the same light. And I don't think that the doll actually menstruates. It's that they have the... I don't think she actually does that. Well, you know, because you have dolls that wet themselves and when you change the pamper. But what it is it comes with like a party pack. And it has the pads in there. That's what they call it, a little party pack. But I can see it being used as a tool to help teach your child about that.
People that play Barbies aren't getting their period.
Okay, but that
But
doll,
they will.
that doll, if Barbies, the average age is 3 to 5 years old.
Right.
And a lot of the reviews were from parents of like 6-and-a-half-year-old girls. So I'm thinking, they don't need to know about
I agree.
their period when they're in elementary school. It's sort of opening up a world that they don't need to before it's time. But now, it could be used, but I don't know that like a 12-year-old or 13-year-old, how,
They don't
I don't
play
know.
with Barbies. They're already at MTV.
I think it's the wrong toy for the wrong age.
I do like Flo's point about the education. I do understand that. But when I was thinking about it, I remembered a scripture that I try to keep myself modest. In Proverbs 11, it says, beauty is abused when those who have not discretion or modesty abuse it. Don't use it correctly. Their discretion, their modesty. It almost opens up a Pandora's box for a girl to think about and worry about these things.
Right, worry about it.
Well, I'm all for it.
You have
I
little
say go
girls.
for the education. Let's
Really?
do all kinds of realistic Barbies. Let's have bloated Barbie, and let's have broke Barbie, and depressed Barbie, and chocolate overdose Barbie. I mean, let's just take it the whole way,
You
man.
have little
Yeah,
girls.
but who wants to be like that?
Well, she's teasing.
That's what my point is. Playing with the doll is supposed to be like using your imagination and your dream house and like I'm just like
Bloated
let them
Barbie
play.
won't fit in the Barbie Corvette.
That's right. She
Yeah,
was
so you
on.
gotta get minivan Barbie.
Yeah. Who wants minivan Barbie?
When I was in 6th grade, the school nurse brought mothers, and my mom will remember this, mothers and daughters in together and spoke about the menstrual cycle. And it was
In
very
6th
nice.
grade.
Because the nurse was there, the mom was
nice,
there,
yeah.
and it was such a great idea. I thought we were before our time in our school district doing that, and I think that might be a good idea to
What
bring
grade
back.
do they do that now?
They
you
do
have
that
little
in
kids.
they do that in fifth grade.
They have a big talk
But
and a
not
big
with
video.
moms. Your mom don't come in, and the boys hear it too.
Yes.
Oh, well, see, it was
my
just girls.
But the
Oh
boys,
my
I think
gosh.
boys need to know
Not
about that
together.
too.
Well, you know what?
My son's in La La Land.
I'm moving on past the
Yeah, move
period.
on,
Barbie.
move on.
Yeah. Let's
This
have
is crazy.
Pastor Barbie.
Pastor Barbie. All right. Here's the thing. What would you, we've done this before also, but this is in the same thing with the menstrual Barbie and all this. What would you have told your 13-year-old self, and how different is it today for 13-year-olds?
Wow.
Somebody go.
I would say this too shall pass.
Yeah, that's
It was an awkward stage. You know, I was growing taller than my awkward body could move, and I would say this too shall pass. You know, the thicker eyebrows, the whole bit. So I'll let them know. Be comforted. You will grow through that stage,
But
that
I
awkwardness.
think I would have told my 13-year-old self to watch your friends.
Yes.
And
Yes,
my mom is in the audience with me today. I'm so delighted. She's going, what? Okay, but she thought everybody was wonderful. But guess what? They all weren't wonderful. And in high school, who you meet at 13 when you're in junior high, that sets the stage for the rest of your life.
Yes,
It's for the rest of your life. So I loved my friends, but they, you know what? 4 of them are dead, and from alcohol and drug abuse. So I think that at 13, I wish I could tell myself, watch your friends.
Proverbs 12 says, choose your friends wisely
Right,
unless you be
right.
deceived. So that's a good
Right.
point.
I mean, that's kind of a serious thing. Better than gangly.
What do you oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say to my 13-year-old self to focus on school. Because I was such a social butterfly, which has benefited me for the future. But I really wish that I had really just locked in and focused on it. School to me was like in the peripheral, you know, in my life. It was like, oh, I'm good. But it was all about social friends, activities. So I would say focus on the education for my 13-year-old
What
self.
about you, Wisdom of Flow?
Well, for me, it would have been to stay focused, journal. I didn't realize the importance of journaling at that time, and setting goals.
Like Dear Diary?
Not so much a dear diary, but the journaling of thoughts and dreams and impressions that you had, because there are a lot of things now that I can tie back to that time. See, my teenage years were not awkward years for me.
Well, that's
Well,
a good thing.
And what I was going to say is my advice actually is to what people say to 13-year-olds and about 13-year-olds. Because I remember it then and today. I think the more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's good.
I
I
remember
like
when
that.
I was 12 and 13, I was in love with God. I loved my parents. I loved my family. And everyone was like, oh, 13-year-olds are moody and they pull away from their parents and you know they act wrong. And so I felt like I had to fit into this teenage box.
Right.
And so I don't want to speak that way to my 13-year-old or
right.
to other 13-year-olds. You don't have to be withdrawn. You don't have to be moody. That might happen, but you don't have to be that way.
Did you have a boyfriend?
I did when I was 14.
Okay, so what was your first boyfriend, and what was that like?
Way
Your
too
first
young.
boyfriend.
Way too young. Like I went on my first date when I was 14 and I'm looking at my kids and I'm like, 14's too young. But I actually just made a post about this, about parents. You're allowed to tell your kids they can't have a boyfriend and girlfriend. I think parents just think, well, we just have to let happen what happens. We are very specific with our kids that they are not allowed to date until they're in high school. Now, does that mean they're not going to like somebody? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I did, and it was a mistake. There's research. It's tons of research that says the sooner kids have serious dating relationships, the sooner they start having premarital sex. And so I just think it's very important that they don't, and there's more important things. There's focus on schoolwork, focus on
What about
God.
Gloria?
No, I'm like, dream big. Like, she likes older, out of reach, out of touch people, which is great with me. She thinks everybody her age is so much more immature than she is.
Perfect.
Which I just love. I'm like, they are like really childish. But my first date was with Brian in a red bug, and we went to breakfast and we went to the best donut place in town. So it was the best first date ever. But my dad, on the other hand, was another story. He was freaking out.
Yeah. I bet you did not date until you were older.
Well, we weren't allowed to until we were 16, but I did sneak at 14. And I did, and it was honest confession is good for a soul. And it was really nice. It was really nice. We spent the day at the museum. But I don't know. I just didn't have that need to be connected to somebody. And it was kind of like what she was saying. People were going, I have a boyfriend. So it was like, well, I guess I'm supposed to have one too.
Right.
So but a real boyfriend, I was probably about 18.
Well, could I wrap this by having somebody say, we're talking about us when we were little. What do we say to parents and grandparents who their children want to date? They're going to the 5th grade dinner dance. 5th grade, 6th grade,
Well,
have boyfriends.
actually, I'll tie that into my first date, which was my junior prom. I was class president, so I had to go to the prom, and this guy rescued me and asked me to go. But we went, you know, when it says choose your friends wisely, we went as a group.
Yes.
I went with the people that I was involved with church. We went to a picnic. Afterwards, we were together. We were having fun. We were enjoying each other. It wasn't physical, relational. It was more fun and joy.
What would you
That's
tell
what
her
I would
today?
say to parents today. Go in groups. Enjoy each other in groups and fun activities. Physical activities, whether it be skating, ice skating, roller skating, playing ball, whatever it might be that you could do together in a group. Encourage group activity.
Find someone that shares your faith and morals. It makes no sense to go out there and date people that you do not share that way.
And if you're
It's
a grandmother,
dangerous.
let's say you're the grandmother and you're watching, you can't control what your daughter or son, how they're raising their children. What you can do is be on your knees. And there's a number.
But you can sure try.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, grandmas can say things that parents sometimes.
There is a number on the bottom of the screen, and I want you to know that there's someone at the other side of that phone, and they will pray with you and they will help you through a problem. We're making light of this because it is fun. Dating is fun. But at Sister to Sister, we hope that we bring you a biblical perspective on the issues of life. But don't go away, because we have lots more Sister to Sister right after this. Welcome back. Welcome back. You're watching Sister to Sister, and we're talking about parenting children. We've been doing daughters. Now we're going to talk a little bit about sons. Here's the question. We talk about how to raise our daughters and how to empower them as godly women, but what about the sons? Have you found that there are different expectations for your sons, and do you teach your sons to be godly men in a different way? Mother of sons.
Mother of sons, yes. Well, because I'm not a man, thank God they have an amazing father, but I just always like lean and put pressure on the biblical examples of men the same way I do with my daughter. I'm like, let's look at Esther, let's look at Ruth, let's look at Sarah, let's look at Eve. And we learned the same way I put the pressure on the biblical, what men should look like with my sons.
I mean, if they have a problem, you'll go to a story in the Bible for them?
A lot of times. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
good
Talking
idea.
about David and what would Joseph do. And I mean, they love those war stories in the Bible. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Tim and I don't get to go on a whole lot of date nights, but I do think it's important not only for our relationship, but I do think it's important for our kids to be seeing that, especially my son to be seeing how my husband treats me, that it's a special time, and how my daughters see that I'm being treated. So I think that mother-father example is so important, and specifically in sons. Again, I'm so thankful that he has a Christian man that he is looking to. And if you don't have that, be involved in a youth group where there's a youth pastor, where there's youth leaders, you know, a club, the Bible club at school, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, strong Christian men that these boys can look to as examples.
I think for me,
like
it's the same. I don't think that I did anything different with my boys than I did with my girls. It's just that some of the topics are different. And I truly believe that mothers play a key role in raising their sons and introducing them to women, and I think the same thing with the girls. My father played a major role for me as a woman, how to carry myself, what is expected, what a man likes to see in a woman. And so the same with my son, you know, so I don't want him dating loosey-goosey. And, you know, I want him to recognize a woman of character and somebody that he could build a life with. And we've been
And wait
pretty
till
good at
high
that.
school.
Well, you know what?
Task a girl out, right?
But you know what? I don't. Well, that's not
Another
true.
story.
I have two sons, and my one son, they were complete opposites. So my one son was like trying to date everything and everybody from elementary school till you know. Oh, I won't say his name on TV. But you know who you are. Boy, did I have to lasso him in. And then my other son, I wanted because I almost said the ages. But then my other son was completely different. He was just totally focused on everything he needed to do.
Oh, that's so good. And you have sons, and they're
and I
wonderful
think
sons.
instead of me teaching my sons, which I did, and I think everybody expressed themselves very well, they taught me something. they don't like to be nagged or harped on.
Hello?
You know, or Mom, pick the right time. Don't talk about me in front of everybody to say what's wrong with me or teasing me.
Yeah.
You know, they taught me to be discreet, to have discretion, to be respectful of their privacy.
That's good,
and
Roxy.
I changed as a person as a result. I think even my mother has. You know, we're careful when to bring issues up, when to discuss them. And they taught me some discretion. So I'm thankful for my sons for putting that into my life.
You know what, Roxanne? I'm hoping that someone that's watching heard you, because nagging our sons or our daughters or our husbands or our sisters or our friends doesn't work.
That's right.
Well, there
It
was
just
just a
backfires.
research that came out that mothers that nagged have more successful children.
Okay, well, maybe forget what I said. I really don't.
That was what statistics will.
Yeah, oh yeah. I know that we don't like
No, but
nagging.
those boys grow into men, and we know the men do not like to be nagged.
right.
So
Okay.
it's pretty
Thank you.
much
Thank you,
runs in the
Pastor Amy.
blood.
Thank you for that statistic there,
They
Missy.
can learn survival methods.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's
She just
Gentle
likes the
reminders.
nag, that's
Can I
all.
move on to the modesty
No,
issue?
I
Yeah, no. This is
Okay,
about.
we're not gonna fight
Okay,
about
well, we
nagging.
taught our daughters to be modest. You addressed that. But what do we do with the sons? Because listen to this: everywhere that your son looks is low shirts. I mean, the newscasters. The Food Network, they all wear these low things. I'm afraid it's all going to fall right out. Okay.
down the
Well, what do we do? How do we teach our sons the modesty thing?
Well, I use a scripture in my house, Psalm 101. I will walk within mine own house with integrity. We can't always control what goes on out there, but if we're modeling the good behavior, they recognize the difference. They begin to recognize as they grow older the difference between my mother's being discreet versus women or whatever, and they can make choices then. They can make wise choices when I'm not around to be discreet themselves.
Well, see, they watch MTV. I mean, I'm not just blaming MTV for everything. Okay, good.
But you know what? They don't watch it at home. They'll watch somewhere else.
That's true.
And here's, you know, I know for me, personally, yes, I definitely gave them scripture, but also, you know, teaching them that the power of being able to restrain yourself and not being at city without walls. And there are always going to be some things that they are attracted to. You know, they're human, just like we are human. And but how to deal with those things, if it awakens anything in them, if it you know, makes them excited, what to do with that.
You
because
talked
they don't-
about that?
Absolutely. I mean, they're your children. They're not aliens.
Yeah, but
You-
I know.
they're your
Sometimes
they're-
teenagers are aliens.
Well, and they can be. Well, and in fact, I used to tease my daughter all the time. I said an alien came and abducted my child. When is she coming back? But you know, the truth of the matter is, it's just that. I don't know. I didn't find the communication that difficult because it was just life lessons and things that you modeled out before them. So it's not like I can't honestly sit here and say I sat my children down and said, now this is what you do and this is what you know, not necessarily, but as things unfolded in life, then I would begin to give them things.
That you made that made me ask that question is you said you taught them what to do when they're feeling a certain way.
Absolutely.
And that is really open.
Yes.
See, I guess that's
Yeah.
normal.
No, that's
that must be normal to me because I don't see that as, but you're right. But
That's
I
the
guess
question.
I didn't
Very
give it any
important.
thought until just now when you said that, because I guess that was just, it's the norm of my household, but it was the norm in my household as a child.
I think it's important though that
So,
it's not
yeah.
a taboo subject. I think
Yes,
there
very
needs to
much
be
so.
an open dialogue, and
Are
that it's
we
not
talking
just
about sex?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it can't just be like here's the birds and the bees. The one time we're going to talk about it, and we're never going to talk about it again. You take steps, and then you keep that door open. And I think the other point I need to make is that parents need to make a big deal out of that pornography, things you take in with your eyes,
Yes.
that it is harmful, it is
Yes.
not good.
Yes.
You need to have that constantly at the forefront. They need to know that. I see so many parents that laugh it off. Oh, they're teenage boys. It's not a big deal. They're going to do it. No, this is not acceptable. You need to turn your eyes away from it. It's going to be burned into your brain. This is not healthy.
burned into your brain.
My
No.
husband, my
It's
husband
true.
says
Yeah,
that
it's true.
he literally,
Yeah,
you know, things that he he has seen in his life that it is there from when he was a
eye gate.
teenager.
I agree.
Yes.
I don't
And
like
I
to
l-
talk about it, but it's true.
I love to hear my husband talk to my sons very openly about this. And he
Yes.
says, boys, train your eyes to see what is
Yes.
good. And that is not good for a young man to look at. He always says, bounce and refocus. Because what you don't want to do is stare, take a picture of it mentally, look back,
Right.
start to crave that,
Right.
but bounce and refocus. And so the boys walk by at the mall and they go,
I know.
So you know what? This is
And
so
they
good.
Mine wasn't running
They-
around doing
they
stuff like that.
know.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. This is all good.
Well,
but
Job says, I've made a covenant with my eyes.
Right.
Not
Okay.
to
Right.
sin.
Gosh,
right.
So that's what your
Right.
husband's saying. Decide
Right.
beforehand
Yes.
Right.
what you're going
This is
to
what
do.
I'm gonna
Don't
watch.
wait till
Right.
you're in the moment.
Oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation, but I'm going to move on to the question about should you teach your son to fight back? Is it
Absolutely.
okay
Yes.
to fight
Yep.
back?
Well, I
Yeah.
don't like the word fight back.
Okay.
Defend somebody. I mean, the scripture says defend someone being led to slaughter. You know, in defense, yes, I could understand. Defend yourself or defend somebody else. But fight back sounds like you're just doing it to be aggressive and angry. No, if you're defending somebody, whether it's a son or a daughter,
Okay.
in defense, I would say yes, self-defense.
I agree with you, Roxy, in that how we are using the word fight, and it can give the impression of aggressiveness. However, we are in a fight, we are in a battle, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's physical. I want my son to know how to fight how to bring his will under subjection. I want him to
inside.
know how to fight. The carnal mind fights against God, fights against the things of God. We just got off the question about the eyes, and like you said,
Yeah.
about the covenant. So how do I fight? How do I resist that? And so I think, yes, I want them to know how to fight all the time. And somebody once said, I don't teach my children to fight, but I teach them how to. And that's the thing, because you fight things every day. It's just not a physical aggression with I'm fighting with a
Right.
person, but you know.
But
I
can
think,
they?
yeah,
Can they fight
I mean,
physically?
I struggle with this because they actually just recently found from the 9/11 Ground Zero, they found a piece of steel that had a Bible verse that had been pressed into it. And the verse that it was the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And but that's not where it stops. That verse doesn't stop there.
That's
it says,
the one that was saved.
turn the other cheek. And so, and there is a verse in the Quran that it talks about an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, and it doesn't have the turn the other cheek part. So as Christians, we're called to something different. And so I struggle with this because it's like, should you teach your kids to fight back or turn the other cheek? What does the word
Well,
say?
see, that's one scripture, and you have to bring it all into context because Paul also talks about we enlist in a war. And so, and we do. You know, we do have to fight.
I understand about the fighting
Spiritual,
against
right.
the physical and
Right.
fighting against your nature and the spiritual battle. But when it comes to that hand-to-hand
It's
physical
true.
combat, I want my sons to protect his sisters and other people.
I think
but-
go learn karate.
I
Go learn karate.
started thinking about the New Testament examples of the men that were fighting back, and I couldn't think of any. Of course, the Old Testament was full of it, but then there's a case like my son a couple of years ago was at a friend's house. A neighbor kid came over and was hitting on my son on the ground. My son is a kind person. He's strong, but he did not defend himself. And so I remember my husband saying, "Son, it is okay to defend yourself. You get him off of you." You know, like releasing that fight in him because he's not naturally that fighter. He's a kind, compassionate
And what if
person.
your child is being bullied? I mean, this is
Yeah.
a situation where we live in a time that people are getting bullied. Children
But see,
are
that's
getting
what I mean
bullied.
about how to defend yourself, because I don't think that the physical answer, I'm sorry, it may
That's
sound
right,
corny,
okay.
is ever the right way to go about it. If they fight in school, and you can attest to this, I don't care if you were bullying me, and once you swing on me and I swing back, whether it's in defense or not, we both get penalized for it.
Well,
So there
I
are
wonder-
consequences for
yes,
that.
I
Thanks
do
for
wonder
saying
how
that.
you
I'm
think
hoping
about this, how you feel about this. This is how the sisters feel. As you can see, we don't all agree. But here's what we do agree. We love you, and we're so grateful that you're here with us, sister to sister. We're here every week for you. Come back, won't you?
love to end Sister to Sister with a scripture. Today is from Deuteronomy 11, verses 18 and 19. It says, "Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds, tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, and when you lie down and when you get up." Sisters, it's all the time we teach our kids these things.
Oh my goodness, and we're always praying for our children all the time. And we always end Sister to Sister with this scripture: "As iron sharpens iron, so does the countenance of one sister sharpen the other." See you next time.